Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Getting In, a College Coach Conversation. I'm Sally Ganga from Bright Horizons College Coach. This show will be all about juniors. So if you're graduating in 2024 or you have a student who is, this is for you. For our second segment, I'm actually having a great long discussion with three of my colleagues, Mary Sue Yoon, formerly of Barnard College in New York, Aisha Wong of University of Florida, formerly, and Alexandra Rendon of UC San Diego about college admission essays. We'll talk about whether you should start them now, what they should be like, and also really should you be writing about traumatic experiences, because that's something students do a lot. Some students think it's a positive. Some students don't realize that it's something they can do. When is it good? When is it maybe something they should rethink? We'll be addressing all of that. But first, I'll be talking with Chrissy Foran about whether the junior year of high school is too early for parents and students to start thinking about colleges. And I have a strong feeling, Chrissy, that it's actually not too early. Is that accurate to say?
A very good feeling, Sally.
All right. All right. So let's just to start with, what are some of the things that students actually can do now? I mean, I think families sort of feel a little helpless. So what can they do? Like what can they start with? And I know merit scholarships come up a lot. So maybe kind of thinking about those.
Yeah, we talk with families a lot about looking for merit scholarship opportunities and the best ways to find those and the best schools to apply to. And that's certainly something that you probably do not want to be starting in your senior year of high school, because it's going to be almost, too little too late. And the whole process is really overwhelming, as I'm sure you well know. And talking with families, it can be very overwhelming with both finance and admission. So one of the really more kind of simple things I think a family or a student can do is to start researching merit scholarship opportunities. And so if there are particular schools that your student wants to go to, even in their junior year, in their sophomore year, those are the great times to get onto those college websites. Just go to the website, type in merit scholarship in their search bar, see what comes up. You want to see what, a lot of schools will actually post a lot of different things about the merit scholarship opportunities that they have. Sometimes they'll show grade point averages, or they'll show the things that they look for in a merit in students for merit scholarships. So to kind of start that process now, and maybe get a spreadsheet going of these are the colleges I'm interested in, this is the merit opportunities they do offer, maybe they don't offer merit opportunities. And so that's another good way to kind of help plan going forward. If you're looking at these schools and that's not a possibility, what other ways are you going to use to pay for school? So kind of researching merit opportunities helps you to get a balanced college list that can include a good mix of those schools that are probable for you, or likely schools that are possible, and some of those reach schools that you're not sure you're going to get into. So merit's most likely at schools that you're more probable to get into, or schools where you are kind of the average, more of a possible. Depends on the school, but I mean, merit's, that's an easy thing to be doing as a junior in high school, or parents of a junior, and to kind of understand those expectations of the schools they're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do always, I'm always kind of a little flabbergasted when families say, well, merit is really important, and then they're applying to all Ivies, and I'm like, Ivies don't
Yeah,
give merit. Now, they're very generous with need-based, but like, let's think
right.
realistically, about what this is actually going to cost you. Again, though, very generous with need-based aid. So if you do have high need,
Right,
please keep those on your list.
right.
All right, what about outside scholarships, like ones that are not through the college that you are attending?
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot with families, especially of juniors, of the different kinds of scholarships. So merit is one of them that they can start researching now. Need-based aid is another one they can be researching. Like, as you were just saying, if you know that the school has very robust, need-based aid, that's a good thing to know at this point.
Mhm.
But private scholarships are another thing that, I mean, really you can start in any year of high school, but definitely by the junior year, that's something that the student really wants to start to kind of research, because again, private scholarship searches are very overwhelming. I mean, there's millions of scholarships out there in the United States for the taking, and it's a matter of trying to figure out, where do you search for them? How do you look for them? How do you keep track of them? And if you're a senior and you're just starting that in your fall of senior year, if you're new to the scholarship arena and you're applying for schools, you're filling out admissions applications, writing essays, trying to do financial aid, that's going to fall by the wayside, because it just gets too overwhelming and it's too much work. So as a junior, if you can start that process a little early on and get on some of the private scholarship websites that are out there and create some profiles. Get in the habit of checking those each week, and treating it not so much as a job, but if it's something that you can work into your schedule, a half hour, an hour each week in your junior year, by the time you're a senior, and that's when it really starts gearing up for private scholarships, you're going to know what you're doing. You're already going to have profiles created on websites. You're already going to have a spreadsheet of some of those scholarships that you think are interesting for you and that you can apply for. Start talking regularly now with your high school counselor to see if there's opportunities that they might know about, so that you're not scrambling at the last minute in your senior year trying to get all this figured out. Junior year is a great time to do that. Have your parents start checking with their employers about any scholarships or any kind of educational opportunities that their companies might offer. So again, it's part of that, paying for college and kind of getting prepared and seeing what's out there.
And I imagine, I mean, this is pretty rare, but sometimes there are scholarships that are available specifically that they want juniors to be applying during their junior year, right?
Yeah, and that's true. Thank you for mentioning that too. I mean, there can be scholarships out there if you're looking for, creating a profile on a website. You can let them know what year you are in school, what age you are. If you're 16 and a junior, they will look for scholarships for students of that particular age as well. So there can actually be scholarships out there that you can apply for as a junior, instead of just kind of waiting until your senior year. So, and there may not be a lot of other students doing it at this stage, so it's a great time to kind of take advantage of that.
All right, and Len, what else can they be doing other than looking for scholarships? I mean, I think that's the first place people go to, but there are other things that you can do.
Yeah, there's so many things that families can do to kind of get prepared, and one of the bigger ones as a family, as parents, to really think about what you can afford to pay for college for your child. One of the biggest things that you want to make sure you know of is when your child comes home and says, "Hey, I really want to apply to Yale, Mom," or "I really want to apply to Stanford or University of Washington." You need to know what the cost of each of those schools is going to be. Because costs can vary so wildly depending on if it's an in-state school, an out-of-state school, a private college. I mean, costs can vary anywhere from $25,000 a year to $85,000 a year, for all costs, which include tuition, room and board, and books, and all of that. But so you need to get a good feel for, number one, where is your child interested in? What does the cost look like for that? But the other thing is, what part of that cost does the school expect you to pay? And so as a parent, you can go on, if your child does come home and say, "Hey, I'm interested in school XYZ," go to that school's website and search for their net price calculator. So every college has a calculator on their website, and it's called a net price calculator. You could probably search for financial aid calculator, but it's a calculator where you can, as a parent, input some of your financial information, and the school's website will calculate what they think your ability to pay for that year would be for your child. So that's a really great way to kind of plan and say, okay, my son wants to go to Yale. I know that Yale, from our research, we know Yale does not offer merit scholarships, so he's not going to get anything there. Let's get onto the Yale website. Let's do the net price calculator. Maybe Yale costs $85,000. Maybe they tell you that you have to pay $55,000 of that, and Yale will help cover the other $30,000. Well, that's a wonderful thing to know in your junior year rather than in senior year, again, when you're in the thick of applying and trying to figure out where your child's going to go. So knowing, kind of how much the college will cost, you can see that on the college website as well. Knowing what they think your ability to pay would be a really good thing to know. And then that way, once you kind of have those two things out of the way and you kind of get an idea of what the schools are expecting you to pay, you can look for other ways to pay. You can look at borrowing loans if you need to. You can talk about payment plans with the schools, and those are usually, information available on the website. If you intend to have your child borrow student loans, I have a lot of parents that I talk to that say, we want my child to have skin in the game. We do want him to borrow or her to borrow some student loans. Well, that's a good thing to be discussing with your child in their junior year. Setting some expectations and saying, look, this is how much we've saved for you for college. So if you do want to go to a more expensive school, we are going to need to see if we can qualify for some financial aid, or we're going to have to talk about borrowing, or maybe your child's working in the summer and saving money for that, or part-time during the year. So I think if you can start to use those calculators, start talking with your child about expectations. Do you want him to stay close to home? there's so many things you can talk about, but really having that conversation about what you as a family can afford. If you plan to have your child borrow, use some loan calculators to see what that looks like when they're done with school and graduated. What does their payment look like each month? Is that a doable payment based on what they want their career to be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about saving money? Is it too late in the junior year to do that?
Never too late to start saving. Yeah, no, it's never too late. And we talk about that all the time, about, kids can help. I mean, set up a savings plan for your child. So if they have a summer job, they get a part-time job, they're babysitting, mowing lawns, any money that they can save now that can help pay for even just college expenses, like, buying laundry detergent in your dorm room or paying for your books. Those things can be really helpful in terms of, planning for colleges and the colleges that you can afford. And any money you can save now is just less interest you're going to have to pay on a loan later. So if you can save some money now and earn some interest, it's so much better than borrowing money later and actually paying interest on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, in terms of saving, in terms of your kids as a junior, make sure that your child has a checking or savings account open. Make sure they understand the basics of how those work. You don't want them to figure that out, on campus their freshman year from a roommate, because I mean, that's just such a confusing time anyway. So if they understand kind of the basics of budgeting and how a checking account or a debit card works, how to withdraw money out, how to balance that and make sure that, you're not spending more than you have. So anything that you can do now to kind of help your child, anything you can save as well, look at your budget each month, each year. If there's expenses you no longer have, put that into a savings account. Take advantage of some of the tax advantage savings accounts out there, like 529 college savings plans. So yeah, I think any time it's a good time to save. Anywhere you save is great. There's not one account that's better than the other. It's, save as much as you can, because then you're not paying interest on it later.
Yeah. By the way, I laughed because I did not know how to write a check. I did know about savings, but I'd never written a check. So my roommate, I went to the grocery store and froze at the cash register, and I was like, Andrea, how do I do this? She like knew exactly. Luckily, she was a good resource. Actually, she knew what she was doing. So.
And when I went to college as a freshman, he was teaching me how to use my debit card, and that money's not there anymore, so you can't use it, and you can't write a check; it won't cover it.
Yeah,
I didn't know before I went to college. So if anything they can teach them before leaving the house is fantastic.
exactly. All right, this all seems like a lot. So how do people organize themselves? Like, how do they get started?
Yeah, it's so overwhelming, and there's so much information. I think if you can do baby steps, take it, bit by bit in little chunks, I think that really helps. So start a spreadsheet. Maybe the first thing you do is, look at your finances and see if there's anywhere, you can save a little bit more. Start looking at college costs. Start a spreadsheet, list some of the schools that your child is interested in going to, and mark the cost of attendance down. Start to look for merit opportunities to see what that school offers. Put it in a spreadsheet. There's deadlines, as you know, Sally, for everything in college finance and college admissions. So making note of when is the admissions application due? When is the financial aid application due? What other things does the college, need from you in order to be applying? So I think any way that you can track that, I say spreadsheets, but if you're not a spreadsheet person, if you have a notebook, whatever you want to use, tracking all of that, especially with private scholarships, your child could start a separate spreadsheet on their own and track their own scholarship website, put in the URL, put in the deadline for the scholarship, what the amount is, maybe what the essay is about. So I think anything you can do to start now organizing that. So again, when senior year comes, you're going to be good to go. You're going to be ready when it's happening. You're not going to be feeling overwhelmed and like you have no idea what's going on, because you're spending your junior year kind of doing all of this busy work now so that you'll be set when your child's a senior and everything starts happening in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, great. Well, Chrissy, this is super helpful.
Well, good. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. This was great. Hopefully everybody gets some good tips today.
Yes, hopefully so. Hopefully they'll act on those tips too, which is always the hard part, right? Like getting yourself organized to do it. So, all right, well, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be talking to Mary Sue, Alex, and Aisha.